In the last video, we went over a general concept for attacking almost every coverage over the top. Although I think it's a fantastic concept, you of course can't run it every down because most players will adjust. You can't even run the same intermediate routes every down because again, you run the risk of narrowing down your attack into an easily identifiable and defensible window. To be truly effective, you need great deep, intermediate, and short options to be able to attack all areas of the field throughout the entire game. Especially with the pass rush the way it is now, we all need good short game options, actually great short game options, to keep the chains moving and make the defense have to adjust lower, potentially setting up deeper options once they do. In this video, we'll go over the simple but effective and overlooked spot concept. There are, of course, many different variations of the concept, so we'll go over which ones to actually run and how to run them effectively. So let's get started with Z-Spot out of doubles Y-Flex offset in the Tennessee Titans playbook. So the spot concept is probably the simplest and easiest way to get 5 yards in the game. We just essentially need to call it, assuming we're picking the right ones, and we're just going to wait for the spot route from the number 1 wide receiver to settle in this zone that's really tough to defend. Number 2 is generally going to be running a corner just to essentially push back the defenders, and you have a flat route from the number 3 or the running back, who's actually in most cases not even necessary, but we'll just leave him in for the sake of a demonstration. So this is cover 3 spot drop right here, and we're just going to wait for the spot route to settle in the zone here. We throw that there, and we should get always at least 5, 6, or 7 yards on that throw. So not all spot concepts are created equal. Number 1, the most important thing for me is to have the spot route coming from width. Okay, so if he's motioning in before the snap, or if he's coming from like a gun bunch or a stack or something like that, he's going to be going in too far inside. That's closer to the user defender, closer to those hook defenders, and it's just going to be much harder to throw that. In this case, he gets in this sweet spot between the hash, between the numbers, and within 5 yards from the line of scrimmage, that there really aren't any zone coverages, and even man coverage struggles to defend that, because within 5 yards, if you're playing zone coverage, that's known as the no cover zone. Now, if we're trying to hit the flat, your opponent does have the option to do hard flats to completely take away stuff underneath, but there really aren't any adjustments that they can do to take over the underneath routes between the hash and between the numbers. So this spot concept, this spot route is going to fit there really nicely, and you'll be able to get that 5, 6, 7 yards every time. The other thing is that generally I want to run this to the boundary. If I'm running this same spot concept but to the wide side of the field or to the field, he doesn't get into that zone quite as nicely, and it's easier for some of those other zones to get in the mix there and make a play on the ball. So to the boundary, you want that spot coming from width, but even then, the alignment of this corner, the number 2 is sometimes important. Like if he's attached to the line of scrimmage in a standard doubles look, it can still work. It just gets a little bit muddier. This is really the cleanest option, the simplest option, that we essentially just wait for that route to settle and throw it to him. That's really, really simple. Now, of course, you do have the issue of the user defender. So if the user's over here, he has the potential to come down on that route and pick it. And, at that point, it's probably a pick 6. So I wouldn't even think about it then. I would go to my left side concept, and whether that's flipping my play and running it to the other side, sure, we could do that. Or, we could look for a play that has a better concept on the weak side. So in this case, it's double slant, which is one of the worst concepts in the game. You can look for something that, has something like a deep dig from the number 1. In this case, he's not really deep enough, but you could find that in these playbooks. Or, you can run the seam out combination, a number of variety of things that you could hot route to make that a little bit more viable. So if the user's not on that side, you can attack that side. But in this case, for the demonstration purposes, I just want to show you how it works against the CPU and how you can plug this into your offense. Now, you'll see later on that we can do this out of a 3 receiver set too, so we can mix things up in how we approach it. Okay, so the other things we want to look into is cover 3 cloud. So how does this change if we're doing a really common adjustment where we're shading down and shading over the top to get those cloud flats? Now, really, the flat defender is never going to get involved here for this spot, for the spot route here. So we really just care about the hook. But in this case, he's not there either. We get our 7 yards. What about hard flat? So we're shading underneath. So the hard flat comes down, and then the hook curl, you would think he would also come down, but he still syncs with that corner route, and we could still throw that. He makes it a little bit tougher, but we're still getting 5, 6, 7 yards. But if they are shading underneath, well, you also have the corner route over here, right? So you have the corner route, you throw that underneath, and you get even more yards if they're trying to do that. So even though we can essentially throw this route every time we want, we can still look out for the possibility of throwing that corner, because that's going to give us, of course, more yards and further away from the user. So always watch out if they're adding hard flats. We can potentially throw that corner over the top for even more yards. Why I like this concept better than, you see a lot of the times if people see the spot concept, they'll actually convert that number 1 to a fade or a streak, trying to get that corner route open. But that corner really can't get open in any case. So you can of course squeeze it in with hard flat, but even with the spot route, we can throw the hard flat. Against curl flats, you can throw them, you can kind of squeeze that corner route in. But if they have the good defenders, then you really can't. With cloud flat, you definitely can't. So I see no reason in doing this, because you're essentially taking away that option from the number 1, right? With this, at least you can get your 5 yards every time. With this, you can never throw that vertical. So in my opinion, this is much better to run. The spot is much better to run than the sail, because we have 2 options. And then we have the option of the running back to the flat too, but that's really just emergency, just so we don't get sacked or whatever. But we're never really looking to him anyway. Now back to cover 3. So you might consider a situation where, say, a user defender's over here, where you have a concept over here that he wants to work himself, and maybe man coverage with the linebacker in the middle on that spot route. Now what's great about this is that it really pushes man defenders as well. So let me just go ahead and reset here. You'll see that the man is expecting him to run across the field on a slant, but then he just stops, and again you have your 5-6 yards of gain. What about cover 0? So let's go to spinner here. Let's press, let's shade over the top, what these people would be doing. Let's take this guy out because that's a 7-man pass rush. We don't need all that. Let's block the running back. So in this case, you'll want to see that it's a potential blitz. You'll take the running back out because, again, he's not essential for this concept, but we do need him to come in on the protection. And this is against a really good corner. You see how he just goes flying, and we can throw that with an outside pass lead and run that up the field. So against man coverage, it's really, really nice. Then cover 2 as well. So we can go cover 2 sync here. I can change this guy to a cloud flat. Whatever flat it is, it doesn't matter on the cover 2, because again, the flat defender isn't getting in on the mix. So we'll just go ahead and run that. Finds that sweet spot again. It's kind of like a smash concept, except in that half area. And then we'll show you cover 2 shaded underneath. Now, the vertical hook shaded underneath is really going to do the best job at this. He's really stuck to that route. Now, you can still force it underneath, and you can get that 5 yards usually. But it's something that's a little bit tighter. But in this case, it's going to be a hard flat, and you can just throw this corner over the top here and get way more yards. So always watch out for the possibility of the hard flat to get more yards. And then this is going to be great for the blitz game too, because it is a quick option that's somewhat away from the user that's roaming like crazy in the middle of the field. So we can go, blitz all linebackers. We can mug them down here. Say this is the user over here. But it's really just going to be the same old thing here. And we could even take the running back out of the route here. Wait for him to settle. We got this, 5, 6, 7 yards easy. And like I was saying, we can do this out of a number of sets. So this is an empty bunch formation. You'll see the spot concept a lot in bunch. But again, it's compressed, so that spot route kind of goes into the middle of the field where you don't want it to be. So these bunch formations where it's, to the wide, where it's, offset to the wide side, it's going to give you a lot better options here. So same thing, we're going to be aligning it to the boundary. We can imagine Kittle's pretty much like the running back here. Number 2 again is on the corner route, so things really don't change here. And against cover 3, again, you're finding that sweet spot here. In this case, we have, I think, even maybe a little bit more room. Likewise, we can run this against cover 2. Same thing, he's going to find that sweet spot right there. Even more room, and we can get potentially 9-10 yards. And then on the left here, we also have a really nice similar thing that we can do on the 2-man combination over here. So here we have an out in a corner, and quite simply, I can just put the number 1 over here on a hitch instead. And this is really, really similar to the spot concept on the right. Again, that hitch is getting in that sweet spot in that zone, between the numbers and between the hash within 5 yards. And then you have that corner route that's going to take the jam away from that slot defender. He's going to take him away going up and out. Same with the hook defender. And then you're going to find a nice window right there to throw that into. Now, where this is really good, again, is playing the user defender. If he's over here, you're going to play the spot to the right. If he's, down here, you're going to play the spot to the left, and you just simply take your pick. Or, especially, with, maybe people are seeing empty and they're blitzing you like crazy, but then again, you have quick options to the left and you have quick options to the right, just based off of where the user defender goes, who has to cover the entire middle of the field. On the backside, again, this is going to work against everything. I won't go through it all, but just going cover 2 right here. Same thing. It gets a little bit muddier with the jam, but again, you're going to get your 5-6 yards. And all combinations, hard flat, cloud flat, man coverage, whatever, you're going to be golden there. But this are just 2 examples out of 1 playbook. I encourage you guys to get creative with it, find your own spot concepts, see how they fit into your game plan, and change it up a little bit, right? Again, if you run this over and over and over again, your opponent will eventually adjust to it. But if you can, run this a few times and be able to hit some of your other route combinations off of that to potentially hit them over the top once they've adjusted underneath, or hit them, with some intermediate gains, just to change that up. So I hope you guys like this one. That's it for this one, and I'll see you guys in the next one.